Welcome into the Eagle Communications Sports Update right here on HutchPost.com. High school, college, pro, we keep you in the know. Joining me once again after a nice little vacation, Glen Grunwald. I am Darren Dunn. Glen, tell everybody where you've been and what you've been able to do.
We had a great cruise over to Norway and Netherlands and spent a few days in England and saw some of the sights over there. Had a wonderful cruise. Nice time to get away with my wife. Now I'm set and ready for some football, ready for some sports to start happening here.
Ready for some real sports and some football. Not to say that cricket isn't real, but you got to take in some cricket over the weekend.
Cricket and rugby, watched at least on television. Don't understand it, don't ask me about it, but it was interesting to see how they do their television, a little bit different over there.
One of these days we'll figure out the rules of cricket. Today, not that day. Instead, we'll talk about Royals coming up later, but first we talk about the KJCCC. Last week I talked about how the standings came out, and you'll find that HCC right there in at number 2. Glen behind a familiar foe in Butler. Troy Morrill once again expected to take the KJCCC this year.
Well, until you knock the king off the mountain, the king's going to stay on the mountain. And the reality of it is the fact that HCC much closer, had 2 overtime losses to them last year as well. One in the conference championship, which is gone now. They no longer going to have that because of the interaction that they have with the Iowa teams. So that's going to be interesting this year, but getting a lot closer by way of point totals. But there's a little error going on campus. I talked to Steve Carpenter today after the first practice. Kind of excited. This is going to be a pretty doggone good football team that ACC is putting together. So we invite people to come out on August 21st. It's an evening game against Bethany JV, which again it was hard to schedule that first game because of the fact of how good they're going to be. But they are going to be a solid team. Big quarterback, not controversy, but competition going on. Running backs are going to be spectacular. So I think good things are going to happen here at HCC this year. It's going to be fun to be a part of it.
And of course, that first game on a Thursday night as they open up against Bethany's JV, initially that was going to be an open date with this new format that they've brought in, Glen, bringing in some of these out-of-state teams to kind of make a complete schedule of 10 games for most teams, and then HCC picks up that 11th by starting off against the JV.
Exactly, and what's important about it is to get those 6 game wins, because the Salt City Bowl has that within their bylaws, is that whoever participates in it has to have 6 wins throughout the season. So it's kind of important to not have that bye date and be able to possibly pick up a win. Of course, and it has to be against a good quality opponent. So we'll see what's going to happen, but the league race won't have the playoff as we've had before. You talked about that with Ryan a few weeks back. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, as we won't have the playoff that we had before. So it's going to we're going to know where we are right out of the guns right away, as it's going to get underway. The 3rd week alone, playing Butler right away. It's going to be held over in El Dorado, so we're familiar with the BG Sports Complex over there. But we'll know what's going on pretty quick.
Took the thought right out of my head, because you do have to face this grisly nature of a Butler team early on in the season. You'll know exactly where you have to go the rest of the season, kind of set that bar, if you will. And really, last year we found out a couple of times, especially going into 6 overtimes, how important the kicking game can be. So for Ryan Rhodes, he has to have all aspects and all assets put together to make sure his team is performing at a high function.
Yeah, that 6 overtime loss over at Butler was crazy. I mean, it got to where everybody just puckered up and just couldn't get it done. Neither could they, neither could we, and they finally were able to come out and win it. Not to mention they lost to Dodge City in overtime as well. So the kicking game, of course, that was in Gale Force wins. That's a little bit different. And then again on the last matchup against Butler, had it, and kind of looked like it was going to go Hutch's favor. Did not. And to take nothing away from Troy's group, Butler's a great football team, as is Dodge City, as is Coffeyville. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this year's season. But we'll know right away, because Butler's 3rd on the season schedule.
Butler selected 1, HCC selected 2, and Dodge City selected 3. Of course, Coach Gary Thomas, not sure how his team will do. I believe he's in his 2nd season, and last year they really met expectations and went above and beyond expectations. So we'll look to see if Dodge City can really be as good as they are projected to be. We move now to Hutchinson High football. Of course, Ryan Cornelson, the new man on board. Glen, you've had a chance to talk with him over the last couple of weeks, and he has a huge undertaking, but perhaps a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and I think he's tired of everybody bringing that up all the time. He's stepping into the shoes of Randy Dryling, who went off to Kansas City, and he's going to do a great job. Ryan has half of his staff back from previous years, and he has some new faces as well. So I think he has about a total of 14 assistant coaches. He's indicated that the practices, the 2-a-days a couple weeks ago when it's planned, they have yet to practice, even though school is starting this week for USD 308. They have yet to practice, but I think you're going to see good things. They're going to run primarily out of the I-set formation, a little bit different from the flex that the ACC fans have seen. But he's got a great senior class to pull from. Colby Turner is going to be a 4-year starter. Turner Wentz as well at that quarterback position. Defense will be stellar. I think you're going to see some good things with Hutch High, and they got several home games to start off with throughout the first part of the season. So home cooking here will prevail, and that's going to be very interesting.
Opportunity to stay close to home, see how the Salthawks are going to do starting off the season. Of course, for them, once they start into that practice mode, you get into dreaded two-a-days. Of course, maybe some players thrive on that. We move now to the Kansas City Chiefs. They've already got a preseason game under the belt. They take down the Bengals 41-39. Glenn, how much stock do you put in the preseason?
Yeah, you don't, and no, mostly they don't. Actually, they used to have longer, a couple more games. They cut that back, and people are saying, why do they actually need that to any extent? Why do they need that? But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Also, you look at Manziel up in Cleveland, and their coach says he hopes to have a starter named by the third game. Well, guess what? This weekend's the second game, so something's got to happen up there. But what you want to see is no injuries. That's the most important part, and see how the rookies will stand and how they will get into their preseason. Preseason is kind of to work out the kinks, let the rookies try to earn their spots, see who's going to be on the practice squad. That's an important part. So really, you don't put anything into it. I'm anxious to see August 23rd because Cordell Patterson with the Minnesota Vikings will return to Arrowhead Stadium, and that's going to be fun to see Cordell up there. Spread in Sports Illustrated a couple weeks ago for you fans of ACC haven't seen it. He talked very favorably about ACC. He hopes to come back during the bye week here to Hutch and see what's going on. So those 2 years he spent here had a big effect on Cordell Patterson. He'll play at Arrowhead on the 23rd.
Cordell Patterson, of course, in the All-Star game this year. What a season he had last season. Of course, going back to the preseason, you've seen teams go 0-4, win a Super Bowl. Teams go 4-0 in the preseason and have an unbelievably terrible season. So we'll see what the Chiefs can do, kind of see who they keep around. Chase Daniel, maybe a good backup, throws for 126 yards, has 1 touchdown. Cyrus Gray, a guy out of Texas A&M, I had the opportunity, albeit a bad opportunity, to see him run all over the University of Kansas when he was in college for Texas A&M, but a good asset to have there in your running game behind the likes of Jamal Charles there for your Kansas City Chiefs. But interestingly enough, on the other side, on the defensive side, have you heard of this new package they might be throwing around, the dog front?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're going to be bringing in all 4 linebackers in some of these packages as they bring in Tamba Ali and Justin Houston and Dee Ford and Josh Martin. All wilts, you have your nose tackle right there in the front, Don Terry Poe. They say, according to Tamba Ali, there will be times when they could be rushing 5, even 6 guys at the quarterback.
Bringing the house at the quarterback, and they'll be in certain situations. Andy Reid likes his defense, and I think he's going to like his team this year.
Kansas City Chiefs, a lot to look forward to, especially after the season ended a little bit too quickly in the postseason last year against the Colts. Hey, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the Royals. It's here on HutchPost.com and your Eagle Communications Sports Update. Welcome back into the Eagle Communications Sports Update right here on HutchPost.com. High school, college, pro. We keep you in the know. Glenn Grunwald, I am Darren Dunn. We turn now to the Kansas City Royals, streaking hot. You talked in the past, Glenn, red hot. What about blue hot? These Royals 8-0 in their last 8 games, reeling off 7 straight over the past week. Victories against Oakland and San Francisco and Arizona. Here's the kicker. They have outscored these teams 45-17.
And quality opponents. The A's, probably the best team in baseball. Quality opponents. And that's what excites me. See, I left and none of this was happening. Actually, I went back and looked after the All-Star game. They lost 4 straight. They got swept by Boston, didn't look good, and all of a sudden they're 16-3 in their last 19 games. They are red hot, blue hot, white hot right now as they're really playing well. So we'll see what's going to happen. You know, if you look and see if they can go 2-1. 2-2, keep that 500, and we said that before. We've been talking that all season long, but right now they're legitimately in first place and have a chance to do something within the A stand right here and then turn around and take on Cleveland. Got some familiar faces with the Twins coming in. They're playing the Twins both up in the Twin City as well as at home. It's going to be interesting. The next 30 days is going to be really interesting to see what happens with Royals baseball. But the fans are excited. Over 35,000 showing up at the K. And we've got a special, Eagle Communication has a special bus going up on the 21st of September. Last game, home game of the season against who? the Detroit Tigers. So we're going to see what's going to happen there. So if you folks are interested in that, call Eagle Communications at 662-2246 and get on the bus, so to speak, as we'll be traveling up to Kansas City last part of September. Could be a huge game.
Also, 662-4486, another way you can reach us to get involved with that trip. There could be a lot on the line that day, as the Royals right now half a game ahead of Detroit. And you talk about closing against Detroit, it would be good to get some of those, a couple victories here, a couple victories there. But what about this, Glenn? Did you just tell me that they went on this streak when you went on vacation? Did that have anything to do with it?
No, it didn't have any. But they've continued as I came back, because I've been back for a week now. So
because if they start on this losing streak, you may need to take another vacation.
You're not going to hang that on me. There's no doubt about it. But I was excited as I came back to hear that they'd won several straight, and now the number is 8 straight. They're playing good ball.
Here's the kicker. The last time they lost, it was against the Oakland Athletics as they acquired John Lester from the Boston Red Sox. They didn't fare so well. The next game they have is up against the Oakland Athletics, and the projected starter is once again Lester. You're talking about a guy that has an incredible 2.59 ERA. How do you get over the hump on a guy like that?
Well, one of them is Gordon start to hit the long ball. That's happened the last few games. They're getting some confidence from guys, Darren, that they haven't had. Butler the same way. Tied 2-2 last night, a base hit in the 7th inning. They're starting to get wins, and that confidence starts to build. I think you're going to see some good things. Plus, they signed Josh Willingham, got him a trade out of a trade from Minnesota. That's going to be a big bat in the lineup. That's going to help out quite a bit.
I feel like a lot of folks were worried when Eric Hosmer goes down with that fracture in his right hand, but yet, like you said, Billy Butler has really stepped up, and maybe some of that comes in playing first base. You get into a defensive groove. You're no longer just the designated hitter, and there's a different flow to the game that you feel, and maybe that's contributed to it just a little bit.
I think it might have, and also, again, being at home and getting these wins over quality opponents had to have a big stuff. They're having fun. That's the most important thing. You heard Ned say that. They're having fun, and they had the young man from South Korea that was even here that was an avid fan for the Royals that got to throw out the first pitch on Monday night and sailed it to the backstop. They're enjoying that. They're enjoying having him around, and they're having fun. In baseball, when you're having fun, it ends up turning into wins.
8-0 in their last 8, 7-0 over the last week, 64-53 overall, half game ahead of Detroit. If you weren't already on the bandwagon, now is the time to get on it, start getting that Kansas City apparel, and of course look forward to that bus trip coming up September 21st with KWBW. If you didn't have a chance to ride last time, or even if you did, get in on this one and ride up for that low price of $95. It includes the bus trip up, the bus trip back, snacks, all kinds of accommodations to see those Kansas City Royals in what could be an opportunity to snag a playoff berth at the end of the season. For Glenn Grunwald, I am Darren Dunn. We'll catch you next week right here on HutchPost.com and your Eagle Communications Sports Update.